Hey everybody, Brian Goulet here of GouletPens.com, and today I have a very special treat for you. We had a guest visitor come and speak to our team here at Goulet Pens. His name is Garth Callaghan, and he is known as the Napkin Notes Dad. Now his story went viral a couple of years ago because he's had cancer 7 times and writes notes daily to his daughter on a napkin and leaves it in her lunch. So he's obviously a big fan of writing. We linked up with him recently and he came here to share his story, and he was nice enough to let us record it and share it with you all today. So I really hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching.
So I brought props. Normally I don't bring props to my things, but this is a really special group, and most of these things that I brought haven't seen the light of day, or they haven't been out of my house in a decade or more. So just about 5 years ago, my doctors looked me in the eye and they said, "Mr. Callaghan, you're going to die from this." And if that wasn't enough, they kept on with the good news. They said the median lifespan for a metastatic kidney cancer patient is 1 year. 16 months with successful treatment. And I sat there trying to process what that meant, and how in the world could 16 months mean success, right? My daughter was in 8th grade, and there was an 8% chance that I would live to see her graduate high school. And I believed my doctors. I believe them because I know the statistics behind my disease. I believe them because I've been working with them for years, and we know each other. We trust each other. I know that they weren't just giving me worst case scenario. Those are just the statistics. And so I left my doctor's office and I didn't know what to do. I mean, would you know what to do? And this news is just completely unexpected, and I'm sitting there wondering how I'm going to get to raise my daughter, who is in 8th grade, and how am I going to get her to become the strong, confident young woman that I have imagined. And so I did the one thing that I knew how to do. It was the one thing that I've been doing for a really long time. I grabbed a napkin and I wrote her a note. And I did it over and over and over again until I had 826 notes. One for each school lunch day, from then until the end of high school graduation, just in case I died. See, I've been writing notes to my daughter, Emma, ever since she was in kindergarten. And I wasn't a very good note writer, right? As a beginner, you know, even if you're a beginner using a fountain pen, you're not going to be very good at it. You're probably going to buy the wrong pen, or not the right ink that you like, or the wrong paper, but starting is really important, and learning is important. And so I started writing these notes and sticking them into my daughter's lunch, and they were very simple. Have a great day. Be an awesome friend. I love you. And there were some days that I forgot, because I'm human and it wasn't a thing back then. You know, I like to say that I kind of had this choice of a cookie, a piece of candy, a pudding cup, a napkin note, and whatever I could put into my daughter's lunch to make her feel a little bit special from me that day. And my daughter contends that she never once got a pudding cup. I know that they were in the refrigerator. Maybe they made it to my lunch. I'm not sure. And so I was searching for this connection, trying to figure out how to be a good dad and how to have influence over my daughter and help her to grow up to be the strong, confident young woman that I imagined. And it wasn't until Emma was in 2nd grade that I figured out that it was the notes that was going to be my thing. Because sometime in 2nd grade, I had finished making her lunch and I hadn't yet put in a note. I wasn't slacking off or anything, I just hadn't gotten to it yet. And she came into the kitchen and grabbed up her lunch bag and started to walk away, and looked inside and realized that there was no note. And she stomped over to me, and I just remember she was this tall. And she held up her lunch bag and she said, "Napkin note?" Like, hey, dude. And that's when I figured out that it mattered to her. And if it mattered to her, it better matter to me. And I decided it was going to be a daily practice, something I did every day. And I still screwed up. I still had no idea what I was doing, and I was searching for things. I was trying to find others to inspire me, because even if it's only one sentence on a blank napkin, sometimes it's really hard to come up with that at 5 o'clock in the morning. And so I searched for the greats, and I used quotes from Dr. Seuss and Mr. Rogers, and I still forgot every once in a while. Do you know how embarrassing it is to go into school and go up to the principal and say, Mrs. Brinkman, I forgot to put a napkin in my daughter's lunch today. Can we please somehow get this to her before she finds out? And the funny thing is, I was always caught. I was caught because my daughter would open up her lunch and show her napkin to her friends well before lunchtime. And then there was this time in 6th grade when I thought, oh, I'm not sure if Emma's really still needs notes, right? She's in middle school. Is this something that she's going to be embarrassed about? And the first day, I went ahead and I wrote the note. And she came home from school and she said, Dad, you know, I was sitting there, I was pulling out my lunch, and my friend sitting next to me asked me about the napkin. She said, hey, what's that? And Emma told her about the fact that I write a note every day and I stick it into her lunch. And her friend turned to her and said, I am so jealous. My daughter's 20 now. She has a summer job, and I still write her daily notes. And you know what? I forgot today because I was so busy coming here. So once again, I'm the bad dad, and somehow I need to figure out how to get a note to her before she opens her lunch at her job. So during this time, since that diagnosis, I've really had to understand how to define success for me. So like Brian said, I've been told by a doctor 7 times that I have cancer. I've lost a kidney, I've lost an adrenal gland, I took daily chemo for 4.5 years. I have 3 tumors in my body today. I have 1 in my brain, 1 in my lung, and 1 on my liver. And they're not going away. And if you think about what success means to any cancer patient, their first word is going to be cure, right? I want it out of my body. I don't want it to ever come back. And if I had to define my success that way, I would be a failure every single morning. I would wake up and there's no way that I'm going to get cured. So how do I learn to live with that, or else I would just drive myself crazy? And so I'm going to use my first prop. So success comes in a lot of different ways. And hopefully by the time we finish up this morning, you'll understand that success doesn't always mean win. You know, it is possible to do everything right and still not be successful. But if you define your own success, if you don't let others define your success for you, then you can really succeed. And I succeeded once. So I am a geek. I love spreadsheets and reading and math and science fiction. And I grew up in a really small town of 700 people and didn't have a big outlet for my nerd geek side. And I didn't feel like I fit in. And back in 2010, I decided that I was going to do the geekiest thing that I knew to possibly do. And I was going to go to a Star Wars convention. And not only was I going to go to a Star Wars convention, I was going to be a costume volunteer. Because if I volunteered in costume for 16 hours during those 4 days, they refunded my ticket price. That was a pretty good deal. How could my wife say no? Right? I mean, so I was going to stay in a friend's condo. I didn't have to pay to get in. She didn't have to listen to me talk about lightsabers and blasters so much. And so I start to get ready months ahead of the convention because I want to bring my master replica FX lightsaber to the convention. If I'm going to dress up as a Jedi, I'm going to do it right. And we've already covered the fact that I'm a geek. I'm not a very crafty geek, right? So I can read and I can do spreadsheets along with the best of them. I make a mean PowerPoint. But sewing or putting something together, that's not really me. But I needed to protect my lightsaber. So I spent 2 months making this. And I mean, 2 months, right? So you can see the amount of effort that was put into this, and it's pretty lousy. It's PVC and a shoulder strap from an old laptop bag that I had, and I got a couple of D hooks, and there's some PVC, or there's some foam, the pool noodle foam inside of it to hold the lightsaber in place, right? It's because I want this lightsaber, which costs $300. Don't tell my wife. $300, and it's irreplaceable because the company who made it lost the license, and they don't make it anymore. So I need to protect this on the trip down. Imagine this, it's August, 2 months later, I've got this wonderful contraption. It's 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going through the Richmond airport. The whole reason why I'm telling you this, by the way, is that I've always been told that you need to have a lot of humor in your talks. And let's face it, a dad with cancer, you really got to stretch to find some humor there. So 6 o'clock in the morning, I haven't had coffee yet. I've got my laptop bag, and I've got this, and I've checked my bag with my costume in it. And I don't want to check this, because even though it's protected, it's still built by Garth. And I really don't want this checked. And so this tube is going through the x-ray machine, and I'm kind of, going along here. And just as it starts to come out of the x-ray machine, it stops. And then it goes back. And then it goes forward, and then back. And it does that a handful of times. And then I get the hand wave. Sir? And I walk over, and I'm like, "Good morning, fine officer." And he said, can I open this? What's in here? And at the time, there was actually a zippered cover too that has since broken through the 2 air flight trips that we've had with it. And I started to point to the zipper to show him how to open it up, and he was like, "You need to step back." And I'm thinking, okay, this is really serious, right? So, okay. And he finally opens it up, and he reaches in and he pulls out, starts to pull the PVC out, and I'm like, "Oh, you're gonna break this." And he pulls out my lightsaber. And he kind of does this a little bit, and the line's getting longer, right? Because nobody's moving past me. And just as he starts to do something like this, I reach over because I want to turn it on and show him that it's a toy, right? And he's, again, I get the hand, step back. And so I point out to him, I said, "Hey, you can, there's a switch right here on the side, you can just flip it." And so he does the switch. And then he goes, "This could be used as a weapon." And I haven't had any coffee yet. It's 6 o'clock in the morning, and I look at him, and I slipped. I said, it is a weapon. It's the weapon of a Jedi Knight. Not as clumsy or as random as a blaster, an elegant weapon from a more civilized age. At which point the supervisor comes over. And he says, "Oh, no, you could hit somebody in the head with this." And I started to think about it, and I thought, well, yeah, I suppose I could. And I pull out my 8-pound metal case laptop, the big heavy Dells from 2010. And I said, well, I could hit somebody in the head with this too. And the supervisor looks at me like, oh my God, you are a dumbass. and he said, do you really want to go there? And I kind of just slipped my laptop back in the case and I said, no, sir, I don't. So the end of this part of the story is that I don't get to carry this on. I have to check it. And it does arrive in Orlando mostly intact. The lightsaber was fine. The case never was the same. And so I did what any self-respecting geek would do as he was leaving the Orlando airport. I tweeted about it. And before I got to the condo where I was staying, the TSA was tweeting me back. Oh. And they wanted to know the story. So all through DMs in Twitter, I'm telling the story, and eventually we have a phone call, and the supervisor in Washington, D.C. listens to my side of the story. And he says, you know, I completely hear you. I wasn't there. I wasn't in the airport. I have to back my agents. So they did the right thing. And I said, I understand, but just to give you some forewarning, there are 30,000 of us in Orlando right now, and we're all going to leave at the same time. And my guess is that there's going to be a handful of blasters and lightsabers, and you need to figure that out. And he said, yeah, I hear you. So a couple of days later, I'm enjoying my time in the convention. I'm really geeking out about all of the Legos and the Stormtrooper helmet exhibit that has people who have painted Stormtrooper helmets. So there's a helmet by J.J. Abrams and a helmet by Peter Mayhew, and these are just, it's an awesome display, and I can't believe how much Star Wars is in my blood at this point. And I get another message from the TSA on Twitter. Hey, we fixed your problem. And I said, okay, great, what does that mean? He said, if you go to the TSA website, and now the TSA app, and you type in lightsaber as a carry-on, right? So you can type in shampoo, you can type in baby formula, you can type in lightsaber, and this is what it says. Sadly, the technology does not exist to create real lightsabers. However, if you have a movie prop replica or a toy, you are more than welcome to use it as a carry-on. May the Force be with you. So that's a pretty cool success story, right? I mean, I got the United States government to acknowledge lightsabers. So when Brian and I first started talking about me coming in, one of the reasons why I wanted to come in is my affinity for fountain pens and writing. And I cannot tell you how many napkins I've written on at this point. I buy them at Costco, and I use a very specific type of pen because it photographs well, and I have a relationship with Office Depot, and they send me pens for free a lot of times. And I actually have 50,000 blank napkins in my attic right now, and we need to figure out what to do with those. Maybe that's a project for this group. And I recently started writing with fountain pens again. It was one of those things that I had a couple of fountain pens when I was a younger adult. They were very expensive because I purchased them before I had kids. And one of them I misplaced, one of them got washed, and that was okay. The dryer really ruined it though. And at that point I thought, I have a young child, I really shouldn't spend money on fountain pens. And I had actually started writing with fountain pens when I was a teenager because I went to high school in Germany for a year, and all of their homework and tests have to be written with fountain pens. And so I've had this thing going on since I was a teenager. And I purchased a pen and didn't really know what I was doing, but I knew that I couldn't purchase something that I would lose and have to tell my wife that I spent hundreds of dollars on something that I just lost. And oh, by the way, 4.5 years of chemo and brain surgery really messes with your short-term memory. I lost my phone twice this morning, getting ready to come here. So I picked up a pen and I started writing with it, and I really enjoyed it. And then I picked up another one, and you know the rest of that story, right? I mean, you just keep buying. And so here's the thing. I don't even know how many pens and bottles of ink Goulet Pens have put into the world. Do you have any idea? A lot. I mean, it's
exact number.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to know the exact number? I mean, at some point, does it really matter?
It's a lot.
So, and here's the thing though, you're not selling pens, right? That's, if you were trying to measure yourself against other companies that are similar to you, not alike, right, but similar. They sell pens, they sell ink. Maybe they have a retail shop. Maybe it's, you know, some big internet retailer that has everything in the world for sale there. But you're not selling pens and ink. You're selling, you know, you're selling a letter. You're giving the ability for a grandfather to write a note to a grandchild, or a parent to write a note and stick it in a child's lunch, or a boyfriend to a girlfriend, or a girlfriend to a girlfriend. I mean, who knows, right? And these tangible notes that exist have meaning. That's what you're allowing your customers to do. It's that memory. Brian gave me an option. He gave me 2 days that I could come in and do this. I chose today on purpose because today is the 8th anniversary of my dad's death. And I have one letter from my dad in his writing. One. Really, and it wasn't anything against my dad, or when my mom sent birthday cards and things like that, it was always love mom and dad, but it was her writing, right? Because that was her job. But at some point when I was in 4th or 5th grade, my dad wrote a letter to my sister and to me. And so, oh, by the way, I don't even have the original. I just have a photocopy because my mom has kept the original. And so it's somewhere in the house. But every single note, card, Valentine that's bejeweled, that my daughter has given me, I have saved every single one of those. And it's because each and every single one of those notes has tangible meaning. So it's not ink and pens. It's all of the things that the ink and pens do. It's the signing of a mortgage. It's the feeling that somebody gets when they're using a real pen. I mean, isn't it different, right? I mean, you could use a Bic, but isn't it different? Doesn't it make you feel better? And people get that, but they don't get it until they try it. You know, so I'm going to bring one of my other props out. Let's see. Okay. So I bought a handful of Lamy pens. By the way, because I learned how to use fountain pens in Germany, I knew how to pronounce it. But what was really interesting is I Googled it just in case maybe in the United States we say it differently. And I just said, how do you pronounce Lamy into Google? And guess what I saw? A video of Brian. That was the first hit. He had a little bit different kind of a hairstyle then. But so I purchased one and I really liked it. And then I purchased another because I wanted to use a different color ink. Again, you know how that story works. But then I decided I wanted to purchase another one, not because of the ink factor, but because I wanted to take the two pens apart. And what I did was I had an umber and a white. And I took the two pens apart and then I made my little stormtrooper pen. So, and you know, this is something that I made. And since we're talking about pens, I'll bring out my other little prop. This pen has never left my house. And the reason it's never left my house is that it's an expensive pen for me, And if I lost it, I would have to go to my wife and explain that I lost it, and I would never, ever, ever get to replace it. So I've left it on my desk. When I leave here, it's going back on my desk, and it will never again leave my house. But because of you, I wanted to bring it in because it's my Boba Fett pen. So, and you know, it's a pretty okay pen, but I didn't buy it for the writing. I bought it because it's Boba Fett. So I'm going to talk really quickly about success and how we set ourselves up, and how I'm really like the most unsuccessful person doing what I do. Before our story went viral, somebody asked me what success looked like. They're like, hey Garth, you know, you seem to be really passionate about these notes that you write to your daughter. What does success look like? And I really hadn't thought about it that way. And this was in November of 2013. And so I sat back and I said, well, you know, I'd like to have 1,000 likes on Facebook before Thanksgiving. So I had a couple of weeks. And I had about, I think, 600 likes at that point. And I'd like to influence dads to write notes to their kids. And then I sat back and I was like, well, and since we're talking about success, I want to go on the Ellen show and talk about napkin notes. And my colleague, Jeannie, said, okay, let's figure out how to do that. And she came up with like this 5-year plan on how to get me on the Ellen show. And I thought, that's really great. I just got diagnosed with cancer again. Give me a little bit so we can work on this. Thanksgiving came and went, and didn't have 1,000 likes on Facebook. We had like 800, so strike one. Even if you look at my online community today, in any channel, it's 80 to 85% women, moms. So I don't really influence dads to write notes to their kids, so that's a strike two failure. I've never been on the Ellen show. Never been invited. Never, I don't even know, you know, how to make that happen. So strike three. Pretty big failure. Our online community, between, you know, Facebook and Twitter and people listening to the podcast and things like that, is about 100,000 people. But I set up myself for that one set of failure because I wanted to get 1,000 likes by a specific time, and it wasn't going to happen because it wasn't realistic. And you know, moms influence their husbands to write notes to their kids. I believe that in my heart. And I get messages all around the world from people whose parent has written them a note because of something that I said. And that's pretty cool. And we've been on some media, like Brian said. So what if it wasn't the Ellen show? Defining success is really important, but not allowing others to influence what your definition of success, that's really important too. So I want to show my very last prop. And I thought that I was going to be able to do it all, but I couldn't. I just couldn't get it in. This box has never left my house. And again, I really wanted to bring it in to show you because of how much your organization means to somebody like me. And it's not just the dad with cancer, right? It's somebody who has a love of writing and has rediscovered a way to make that writing even a little bit more creative. People notice. I write about a letter a day outside of the napkin notes, and people notice. People notice that I use different color inks. People notice that the handwriting is still the bad handwriting that it was, but it looks nicer. And so this is about 60 or 65% of the napkin notes that I wrote to Emma when I thought I was going to die. And And so even though I wrote the notes, I didn't use them. It wasn't like a checkbook, right? I still wrote a new note every single day. These were just in case. And we've mixed in some of the, some of the notes are notes that Emma, we've reclaimed from her lunch. You can see, I mean, it was a coffee day. And so it's kind of a little mixture of what's going on. There are some brand new notes that were sitting around, but a lot of like, I don't even know if I could read this. Oh yeah, you have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself in any direction you choose. Dr. Seuss. And so we've saved all of these. And I almost burned them last year because we made it to Emma's graduation, right? That was the deal. We had to have these notes in case I died before she graduated. And I wasn't sure what to do with them because they lost a little bit of meaning. I mean, they're still very meaningful, but we hit the goal. We were successful. And I wasn't really sure. And now today, I'm really glad that I didn't. And so these have never left the house, and I wanted to, feel that it's
That's a lot of napkins.
It's a lot of napkins.
I've never felt napkins weigh that much.
So when you're thinking about success for yourselves, for the organization, for your team, think about it in that different way. How are we getting the ability for people to write tangible notes that can last forever? How are we helping that ability? How are we getting the pens into their hands and the ink into their hands in a way that dazzles and surprises them so that they have this lifelong learning of writing? Because that's what you do. You don't sell pens and ink. I mean, that's the Wall Street definition of what you do, right? You sell notes. You sell notes that are going to be tucked away in boxes and the back of drawers and in shoe boxes in the closet. You sell these notes that grandparents, they pass away and the grandchildren are going through the house and they find these love letters between the grandparents. Imagine the relationship that happens from that. You learn about your grandparents' life in a way that you would have never imagined. So when I think about success for myself, and especially this cloud that health has around me, I can choose to define my own success. Because if I choose to define my own success, I don't have to beat cancer. If I choose to define my own success, I have already won. Thank you.